So we got people in there. Welcome everyone. I'm Dimitri Broxton, and this is episode 22 of In the Artist Studio. I'm just gonna give folks a couple moments to get yourselves logged in to the Zoom. If you are joining us by Facebook, just to remind you, as we do every single week, you can see us, but we can't see you on here. So please, if you want to interact with us, please go to Moad's calendar, sign up for, go ahead and sign up for the Zoom. And it'll be a really quick registration, and then you can interact with us.
Yep.
So while we give folks another minute to log in, please go into the chat and let us know where you're joining us from.
You know what, I'll hand it to you. But when I do that, you got to flip the camera.
So I'll get us started off with a couple of opening remarks. Hey, Becca in Oakland. Oh, we've got Helena in New York City. We've got Inja in Redwood City. Doreen in Surprise, Arizona. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. And thank you. I love seeing everyone's names week after week. It's great to see all of you. Hey, Carol, Joan, and Jessica, welcome, welcome. We've got folks from New York City, Richmond, California, across the bridge, and I'm assuming the peninsula or San Francisco. Thank you so much for joining us. So again, this is episode 22, I can't believe it, of In the Artist Studio. So Moad's physical building is still closed due to the mandatory shelter in place, but you can still get your fill of art and artists of the African diaspora. So every single Wednesday, we took a 2-week break, but we're back at 1:00 p.m. Pacific time. Please join Moad staff as we visit some of our favorite artists in their studio to see what they're currently working on and how their work is changing as a result of the quarantine. It's a rare opportunity to hear from artists directly from their studios. We'll follow all talks with an audience Q&A. So if you are joining us on Zoom, look down for the Q&A panel, and that's where you're gonna enter your questions as they come up. We will get to them in the last 10 to 15 minutes of the talk. Please visit our website to see which artists we have coming up. And you can also go back to watch all of our past talks on Moad's YouTube channel and on our Facebook channel. This series was made possible by generous donations by the Westridge Foundation, Moad members, and viewers like you. Thank you so much. I'm gonna read a few statements before we get into the conversation today with Yashua. Moad stands in solidarity with Black Lives Matter. We honor and mourn the senseless murders of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, Tony McDade, and so many others who have lost their lives at the hands of police brutality and racial injustice, including those whose names we do not know. We also acknowledge and wish resilience upon Jacob Blake, who remarkably, in spite of being nearly killed by 7 targeted police bullets in an ongoing act of white supremacist terror exacted by the state, has survived. We always want to start off with also acknowledging the land that we're situated on. So as many of us are settlers, immigrants, or descendants of those forcefully brought to this continent, our institutions were founded upon exclusions and erasures of the indigenous peoples whose lands we are located. With deep respect, Moad acknowledges that even in the virtual space, our people, our work, and our network servers are on native lands, and we thank the indigenous peoples of the Bay Area who have stewarded this land throughout the generations. Our wonderful guest today is Yashua Klos. So like many African-American families, Yashua's family migrated from the South to the North in search of furthering their American dream. His family landed in Detroit and has worked for generations at the Ford Motor Auto Plant. Diego Rivera picked at this auto plant with faceless white male factory workers in his Detroit Industry Mural, 1933. In his current body of work, Klos uses Rivera's mural as the scaffolding for his own family tree tapestry, where he inserts portraits of his Black family. This tapestry will debut at his first solo museum exhibition at the Wellin Museum in fall 2022, along with large wood sculpture and several small tapestries. Klos' works has been shown in museums and galleries across the states and internationally, including the Studio Museum of Harlem, the Weatherspoon Museum, Greensboro, North Carolina, and Goodman Gallery in Johannesburg, South Africa. Klos' work has been reviewed in the New York Times, and he's been awarded residencies at Skowhegan, the Vermont Studio Center, and Bemis. He is the recipient of a 2014 Joan Mitchell Fellowship and a 2015 NYFA grant. Klos is represented by Tilton Gallery in New York and Galerie de Villepoix, in Paris. Let's get our French on. Yashua lives and works in Brooklyn. Welcome to our show today, Yashua.
Oh, best intro ever. Thank you, Dimitri. Glad to be here. Can I say, before I say anything else, that you have the best screensaver I have ever seen in the game? This is beautiful. I can't believe you're not in the space. Like, that looks so real. Yeah.
Yeah, this was the show we had called Coffee, Rum, Sugar, and Gold recently.
I'm familiar. I'm familiar with that show.
Nice. Yeah. So, some of my favorite artists. And thank you for joining us for this chance to visit with someone who I've admired for years.
Oh, bro, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, how's everything going with?
I'm super excited. It's weird to say that, I think, in this day and time, to say I'm super excited, because there's so much to be in dismay about. There's so much to be frustrated about. There's so much to be in fear of. There's so much to feel threatened by, right? But and I do feel all those things, actually. On top of those things, I think most importantly, I feel excited for change, and I feel excited to feel my own powers grow and my own potential grow as a person. You know, as a person who makes art. I'm excited about what I can do to help build the new future ahead.
Oh, that's great. That's great. I love to hear that.
Yeah. I'm happy to say that. I'm happy to be able to say that, and I'm grateful, because it could obviously, be the other way. We got so many people that are struggling, so many people that are affected by COVID in a real deep way, and just through the graces of the universe, I've been able to be empowered to just share my gift more and more. I think during this time, I've really felt more active than ever. So, I'm just excited to share with you.
That's huge. I'm gonna pause real quick because I got a little bit ahead of myself. I want to start off with a really short video for folks that are not familiar with your work, so that they can. It's a 3-minute video. We're gonna get deeper into it, but I want folks to be able to get a chance to kind of get a quick overview before we jump into specific works. So just give me a second on that. Let's see. All right, I'm gonna start right here. Getting a little faster with my PowerPoint skills on these.
I'm impressed. Unlike maybe our sort of mainstream idea of traditional collage, I'm not using ready-made materials to create the collage. I'm creating my own source material myself through woodblock printing. So that means that I draw an image on wood, take a carving gouge, carve out the negative space of the image, and then I ink up everything that remains on the surface of the block. Then I put paper on top of that, create pressure, and pull the print. From those prints, I then cut and reassemble and make into larger collages. I'm from the south side of Chicago, and I'm biracial, so my mother is white, my father is African American. I grew up in a predominantly black neighborhood, though it was somewhat mixed too. Part of being black, for me, is also being mistaken as not black. That's part of the Black experience in America, is being many things. So the work is really an investigation for me about what it is I think Blackness is. I grew up in a situation with a lot of peers where we didn't have our fathers at home with us. So what I noticed as I was reaching adolescence and young adulthood was that we were role modeling what we felt it meant to be a man off of one another, which is a very sort of fragile proposition, right? Because we were all boys. A lot of my work was initially kind of an exploration of that vulnerability of trying to construct a masculine identity and doing it from raw materials. One could say that there are commonalities that we as Black people have that we go through experientially, but there's infinite ways that we digest that experience. And a lot of it is my personal pain. They're images that are in turmoil. They're images that are not completely fixed. That this is a conversation that is clearly swirling and ongoing. All these challenging things we're talking about. What is masculinity? What is Blackness? What is Black maleness? The thing about my work is that I'm always constantly chasing the next question. And then it sends me on different tangents to where I keep exploring something that I thought I would sort of get to the bottom of, but there's no getting to the bottom of it. I don't make work that I'm not obsessed with, because it's so difficult to be an artist in the first place, that I think if you're gonna venture out into being an artist, you need to find what it is that you're absolutely obsessed with and dive in.
Shout out to The Beholder for that amazing video. They do such a great job.
They do. Who was that baby in the video talking?
I wasn't gonna say anything. I know 5 years is a big difference, right?
Yeah, it's just funny. Every time I see myself without a beard, it just, I don't know what's happening. I don't remember that era.
Yes, it seems like forever ago, especially in the last, after the last 7 months, which feels like a decade almost.
Yeah.
You know, I love that you started off this conversation talking about hope and how you're looking towards the positivity in this moment right now. You know, what has shifted for you?
Yeah, so I think I've been through like all the stages of confusion about this era. You know, I've been through the, I don't know what's true phase. I've been through the, I don't know what the future holds. I don't know what tomorrow holds phase. I've been through the grieving. So I think that because of that, at the initial stages of quarantine, I just stopped making work. Maybe the first month. I was thinking about checking the news constantly, and I was thinking about how I could be more valuable to society than to be making the work I was making. And that is not to say that that work isn't extremely valuable, but at that time when I was still raw from everything happening, I was just kind of reassessing and reprioritizing everything. And also really realizing what were the close personal relationships that I wanted to hold on to. I think we've all kind of been doing that, you know, finding out what's really real in this day and time. So the work took a back seat, and I did then start to experiment. I went back into some painting that I had done painting in probably 10 years or plus. So I tried some experiments and eventually found my way back to the work that you just showed with that Beholder clip. I found my way back to that body of work, which was collages that are basically paper constructions based in wood block printing. And then I started to get my groove back. You know, I started to feel that I was on familiar ground, but like I had new energy, I had new wind behind my back. And then something hit me, which was that it was time to get back to work. And right before COVID happened, actually, Dimitri, I'm gonna jump back 2 years before COVID happened.
Okay.
Because this is like a pivotal point in my life. So 2 years before COVID happened, I had a life-changing experience that would eventually lead to this project that I'm gonna talk about today. So sitting in front of my computer, got a Facebook message from someone saying, "Hey, we did a DNA test on our side of the family. We think you might be related."
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm 42 years old, and I grew up raised by a single parent mother. My father was not in the picture. I met him 2 times in my life. And this was his side of the family that I had been estranged from my entire life. That one Facebook message, shout out to my cousin Paige. She started passing the FaceTime around to her mother, my auntie Liddy, to Uncle George, and whoever was in the house. And then it just turned into a love fest. And we've been, they've been so welcoming and warm and inviting me back into the fold and getting me into the family, really. And it's been life-changing. I've gone down to Detroit several times to just hang out. And so we're all playing this fast catch-up because we're very aware of the distance that was created through my father. So I hit the lottery, basically. I was a poor man. I didn't know it. And I found out, you know, overnight, I became rich with this loving family. And
oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So this connection led to the project here, which is a way for me to bridge that estrangement between me and this humongous family. So my dad was one of 15 children. So grandma was married 3 times, and she had a lot of kids, and these kids had kids. So me growing up as an only child, I didn't know how to process all of these familiar relationships. So my art is my way of understanding the world and anything else I can't quite put into words. So I began drawing a family tree and writing down names, and that evolved into the project that I'm going to discuss today, which is using Diego Rivera's Detroit Mural Industry project, his mural as a scaffolding for my family tree.
That is amazing. I mean, so, you know, I definitely, you know, saw family histories into your work, but I think, you know, has your investigation of your family's histories and stories, has that always been present in your work, or after this experience did you find a shift in your work to really, as you were trying to reconcile with this and bring this into your awareness yourself?
Yeah, well, I'm glad you showed that video as context to the work prior to this, because in the video, you'll notice I didn't mention family as much as I mentioned friends growing up and the community that I had growing up. And that was always family to me, still is. And that's something that I learned from my mom, is that family is not necessarily blood, but it's who you relate to, and it's who you connect with and who you survive with. So my work has long been about a kind of survival and a kind of forging of identity based on communal identity, based on resources in the environment. And I guess growing up without my father and discovering on my own what it meant to be a Black man, I felt kind of vulnerable and left out there to figure it out, given the good, bad, and ugly of what was available from the environment and those materials. So the collage work was always about that, still is about that. And so more than family, that was usually about self. That was more of an internal investigation. This project is largely about learning my family, learning their connection to Detroit, learning their connection to America, to American industry and the American dream that I feel that Black families have gotten left out of, though we've put forth so much of the labor to build that dream. So yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways it's personal, but it's political, and it's not unique to me. I mean, this is, many African American families have moved from the South to the North, beyond the odds set against them, and found a way to maintain, hold on to family values. And that's what I'm finding is so beautiful about this project and my family, is that the family's code, the family's moray is always keep the family together. That's not easy to do, especially for Black folks navigating the rugged terrain of America, right? So it's been a beautiful thing just getting stories from them and translating those stories into visual work that can sort of become memories for me.
Before we jump into the current project, I want to take a leap back into your work, if you don't mind.
Sure.
And I kind of want to start off with some of the things that we saw in the video, but for me, were also my introduction to your work. Let's see, let's go past this. All right, so I definitely want to start off with these banners because this was the moment. I want to say this was 2008, right? It was 2008, or at least when I saw them.
Yeah.
It was my introduction to your work, and you know, and even looking at the work that's behind you right now, I can see the threads. There's still the monumental block prints, which are wild and insane. I don't think I've ever seen anyone do this before. And I think on the next slide, I just so folks can get a sense of, and here's another baby face of you, but just the scale, the monumentality of the work. It's beyond human. So, you know, I'll kind of shift back to that. Can you tell us about this work?
Yeah, of course. Wow, you did your research, brother. I love this. This is cool. You're making it easy for me, actually. But this is cool. So this work is yeah, this was like my first real step into woodblock printing. And I learned this. No, I guess, you know, I dove in, right?
I mean, you dove in. This looks like the work of someone who has spent their entire life developing this process. So, you know, your first work, it's perfection. The scale is outrageous. So
thank you. I think that I had a big advantage doing this, doing woodblock printing, because I'm quite adept at drawing. I've always been comfortable with my facility in drawing. That was really my entry point into making images. So for me, the jump into carving meant removing the line instead of adding the line. Once I got a hold of that concept, then the woodblock carving came rather naturally. So I was really excited about this series. This is called Banners. These are 5 portraits of friends of mine, all Black men. At this point, I was interested in the idea of unity around sort of an idea of, well, I guess it was unity around some sort of unspoken principle. I felt like what I found interesting about the project is I asked each of my friends to hold this pose, their fist over their heart. We never talked about what it could mean, or how they should feel about the pose, or what kind of attitude to project, but they all entered into it with different, slightly different attitudes. Some of them looked almost militant with the fist over their heart. Some of them, my friend Kobe Kennedy, who's the second image there with the dreadlocks, he didn't want to do it. So he was kind of resistant, and you can see that in the pose. And to me, that was just an interesting notion about how you can try your best to reduce a people to an action or to an ideology, but we will always find our own way to enter and exit into whatever sort of, ideology you try to put on us. So that was the exciting part. And then to me, having these as banners and as woodblock prints with the whole political history of grassroots organizations using woodblock prints, or one of my heroes, Emory Douglas, or the other hero, Charles White, Elizabeth Catlett. I mean, you're talking about the kind of propaganda in a way that comes from this graphic language of woodblock printing. So that was kind of my intervention and contribution to, in my eyes, to that history.
Oh my gosh. I wanna just pause because I'm also looking at our Facebook feed, and you blew my mind. But just some of these things, our friend Ashara Ekundayo is like, damn, first step? Like what? People are just saying gorgeous, it's powerful. I mean, come on. I've been doing art for a long time. There's no way I would pick up woodblock and do something this amazing and at this scale. So yeah, I think we're in the company of a genius right here.
Respect. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I feel grateful that I think I found something that works for me.
Yeah, you definitely have, and it's great to see the progression over time. And I definitely want to spend the bulk of our time talking about the work you have in your studio right now. But I think kind of going back through, those images that we just looked at with the banners were very almost photorealistic. And then, within a couple of years, you started shifting to what we saw in the Beholder video of these collage type constructions, again, on a monumental, gigantic scale. And so, I'm really interested in your decisions and your choice to work on that monumental scale. What was the inspiration for this? And it also seems, I think a lot of artists who are first entering into the marketplace, if you want to talk about it that way, are often encouraged to make smaller works, while the gallerist and the art market tries to determine your value or where you fit in. And you kind of go around that model and you just immediately, these are gigantic, pieces that do not easily fit in a normal person's house on a wall. So can you talk about your choice of scale and monuments?
Yeah, sure. Well, this piece that you have up now on the screen, this was also my first collage. So this thing, I don't know if you can tell from the screen, but this is 17 feet wide, 13 feet high. This thing is big. I did this for my thesis show, my MFA show at Hunter, and I didn't know what I was doing, but I figured it out at some point in the process. And when I hit it, when the piece was finished, I knew that I had opened up a floodgate of a new language. So some of my peers asked me, okay, you did that, now what? And I looked at them like they had two heads, because I was like, what you mean? This is it. I figured out a new language here. And I was just excited to keep exploring that language and pushing it in as many directions as I could. So to get to the monument, actually comes back to the banners series that you showed, because while those were successful in this idea of scale, 8 foot tall, 4 foot wide for each banner print, to me, they were missing something that would announce them as realistic in their form. And because woodblock prints are so graphic, right? That is either it's the line or it's not the line. There's not a lot of room for gradient, at least not in the Western tradition that I was schooled in. The Japanese Eastern tradition has a more nuanced way of using water-based ink and brushing it on the plate like a painting. So they create gradients. But the Western tradition is graphic. So I couldn't get the volumetric form that comes when light hits a form and there's a shadow and there's a mid-tone and there's a cast shadow and so on. So I thought maybe what I need to do is make the prints become the source material for something bigger than the prints, something more than the print. So even this piece you're showing, the face on Mars, this is, it's pieced together small woodblock prints and monotypes, ink rolled out on paper. So the end result is collage, not woodblock print, but the woodblock print is the source material to get to the collage.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And you know, and a lot of your pieces are kind of reminiscent of, you know, when I watch something like, you know, the first thing that comes to my head right now is Planet of the Apes, when, you know, I don't remember the name of the character, but the lead character ends up in New York City and, you know, the monuments have crumbled and they have fallen into disrepair and disarray. You know, that's kind of the first thing that pops into my head is your work. And, you know, and maybe I'm thinking about this moment where Confederate monuments are being taken down. You know, artists and I can't think of his name, Nicholas Glennon is, you know, actually made a grave to a Confederate monument. You know, is this stuff that back in 2010, is this stuff, you know, that seems like it's way ahead of the time, actually, that was on your mind?
Well, yes, it's on my mind then and now. So you're right on target. I mean, what I'm thinking of back then, and this piece is probably the best example, is that I wanted to make these references to monuments that you couldn't tell what time they were from. So that's what's interesting about that like Planet of the Apes moment, where at the end they realize they're in a New York that has been you know, covered, right? So they're on this planet. and the only reference that I leave in this work, there's a milk crate in there.
I saw that, yeah.
Yeah, there's a cinder block. So there's some things that refer to here and now, but there's also like this sort of cosmic blackness, this reference to like a star system possibly, or it might just be soil, it might be dirt or mud. And the monument itself, it could be either sinking into the ground and decaying at like a ruin, or it could be emerging from. So I was always interested in a disorientation of time with the work. And I think when the work is doing its job, it's disorienting in a great way, where you're not sure if you're looking at the past, the future, but there's enough remnants of the present to keep you there so that you know that this is about us.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I'm gonna jump through because I just wanna I'm gonna skip a couple things, but I don't know what year this one was from. I somehow lost the reference, but I think it's also, I wanted to show folks your
2015.
This is 2015. Okay, so paragraph in 2015 that you work in multiple, you know, you work in multiple fashions. So it's not just black print, it's not just collage, it's also creating these sculptural pieces. And so was this, it seemed to be, I guess you did have some that you made earlier, but this one for me like really blended because of the black and the etching on it. It was a really, you're bringing your language into the piece in this one.
Yeah, this is the third sculpture that I made, and okay. It's maple wood with polyurethane stain, and then I blowtorch it. So you can see like that kind of patina on it as well. This was an experiment as I moved away from references to the figure altogether in sculpture and trying to think about the work as a kind of like physical monument to the element of wind and fire and earth. So yeah, the pyrograph is a reference to the torch that I also use to burn it, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So now we have a kind of, this is not a comprehensive view of your work whatsoever. I definitely encourage people to check your work out because it's just mind blowing. And you know, I think you're definitely one of the artists that, there's a lot of artists that I speak to that I'm like, oh, if I hit the lottery, I'm acquiring some of this work for sure. Yours falls high on my list of that. I definitely want to give people time to see what you're working on right now. So yeah, if you want to start taking us around, and as people start, I want to just remind our audience that as questions start coming up for you, please insert them into the Q&A box so we can get to them in the last part of our discussion today. So yeah, so Yashua, I'm gonna kind of jump ahead a little bit to some of the stuff you just recently sent to me, and then I know some of this stuff you also have in your studio as well, so we can kind of do a back and forth between them.
Yeah. This is that's me holding a block, one of the wood blocks that I recently carved of a floral pattern. So I'll talk about that more when you see the context in the studio.
Excellent. Yeah. But also it gives a great sense of the scale of that it's bigger than you. And
yeah.
I think it's important for people to see this because I still am having a hard time wrapping my head around how you do this. So yeah, so into the piece and kind of the inspiration. And I know you have this in your studio as well, but I think it's helpful for people to be able to see the image large on the screen as well. Yeah.
So this is on the top. That's a printout of Diego Rivera's Detroit Industry Mural, which is currently at the DIA. I mean, it will always be. It's made for the DIA in Detroit. I discovered this mural on one of my visits to go reconnect with family. And I've seen, this is a piece that I'd seen as a student. You know, you see it in books, but you don't know how big it is and you don't feel the impact. It has the feeling of like a Sistine Chapel that's dedicated to American industry. So I saw the mural, I loved it. I didn't think too much about it after the visit, actually. And then I kind of woke up in the middle of the night one day and I said, that's it. That mural is the structure for my family's tree. And it all started to make sense. So beneath the Diego printout there, you'll see my interpretation of it is a drawing. I've kind of reduced it down to all of its essential elements. And I've taken out the white male workers that Diego had in the mural, which accurately for that time was the demographic, but that soon changed as Black folks came up from the South and got to work. So there you have my intervention, and my family members are in the drawing beneath there, and you might be able to see a tree form sprouting in the background. That may or may not be included in the final piece. Yeah, that's the tree form there in the center. And that's grandma in the middle dropping the motor. So the structure of that is based on grandma's 3 different groups of children. All the way to the top left are the McDonald's, which my dad was. And then you have the 10 Massies in the middle. And then all the way to the right top side, you see one figure all the way in the corner, Paul Green at the end.
Mm.
And then beneath everything on the bottom level, that's all the cousins, all the offspring. And I might be hidden in there somewhere as well, eventually.
I think, I mean, even just looking at this, and I'm assuming that this is a piece you are still working on. The show doesn't open up until 2022, so you've got a little bit of time left in there. This is something that's just coming to my head right now. It's a half-baked thought that's in my head right now, but I am noticing.
Those are the best.
Yeah. I am noticing that your reduction of some of the figures kind of removes that. I think a lot of the art of Diego Rivera, but also just of the era was really looking positively towards industry and capitalism. And by you reducing the number of figures, particularly in that centerpiece with the factory, it almost removes us from that glorifying of the capitalist system. And I don't know if that's on purpose. It makes us look at these individuals more, whereas in his pieces, I'm not looking at the individual, I'm looking at the machinery of it all and how the people are part of that, are part of that machinery. Is that intentional, or am I just coming from left field on that?
Yeah, well, Diego Rivera was a communist, right? So he was invested in the idea that the worker was a proletariat. The worker was this elevated position, and it was the heartbeat of society. So his mural really celebrates, in some way, the work ethic, but it takes away the humanity of each of the workers' faces. So he doesn't give us their faces. He shows us a few portraits of the Ford family. Because remember, his mural was a commission. He was paid to make the mural, so he had to include the boss, right?
Yeah.
So my interpretation is to kind of turn it over back to the people and give visibility to the workers themselves. So no more facelessness. Still the worker is still elevated, though. I got the way that I've depicted a lot of my family members is some of them are casually working, so they're not, I think Diego has everybody kind of like you said, cogs in a wheel, back breaking labor for nation. But I have family members that are telling each other what to do, and some of them hanging out, and and that's because it's also, I also look at my mural like it's photo day, like it's a family reunion. We already know the mechanics are there. We know that the history is there, but I think too often we're groomed to see the Black figure as a figure for labor. So some of the mural is about the Black figure relaxing, the Black figure at leisure, the Black figures just hanging out, enjoying one another.
Awesome. I love that. We definitely need to see a lot more of that. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to put you front and center on the screen so we can kind of walk around the studio.
Sure.
And I'm gonna make myself disappear for a second. Y'all hear my voice, but I'm gonna disappear so you can dominate the screen.
Okay. So this behind me is 1/4 of the larger mural, and this would be Paul Green here above me. And so remember, that's the top right part of the Diego Rivera mural. I'll try to give you an idea here of the scale. During this process, I've learned that my walls are not 15 feet tall.
I love it.
So you can see, these are some of the portraits of cousins.
Wow, those are absolutely stunning.
And I should note that this was actually, you're looking at the second attempt of this piece of the mural. The first attempt was made out of, it was blue inks. We were dyeing muslin fabric in blue dye and then printing on top of that. And it was really beautiful. But at some point, I kind of realized that I was getting into making a painting like Diego Rivera. And I decided I didn't want to do what he'd done. I wanted to use his mural as a scaffolding for my agenda. And I didn't need to compete with him on who was, you know, painting the prettier mural. He can have that. I'm trying to do something that hasn't been done, that needs to be done. So the choice to go to black ink on the muslin is kind of a way to talk about illustration language or diagrams, just factual information, right? The woodblock print is great for that. It is either the line or it's not the line. I should also point out, you'll see references to Art Deco architecture, which Diego Rivera did not have, but I'm starting to include some references to chandeliers, and there'll be like some Art Deco lamps and things like that in there. And I'm thinking about Art Deco design as this, it was meant to be this sort of design for like a slick industrial, high functioning America, where industry was the future. And it emerged around the time of the Industrial Revolution, right? So I'm thinking about kind of quoting those ideas about American progress inside of this mural, and in what ways that American progress has, again, continued to leave out Black folks. So I'm reinserting us into that progress.
That's that's amazing, and that's why I think is like this work is so relevant to the conversations that we're having today, in terms of Black Lives Matter, in terms of, you know, we've got all these news going on about, I won't name the institution, but institutions buying Black art, and you know that the artists were unaware of at a discount, and you know, putting on exhibitions. You know, so the conversation about Black labor, Black lives is intertwined and has so much to do with industry and capitalism at this time. And, you know, and I feel it from your work.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, there's a lot you said there. Because there is a lot going on. There's a lot
going on. Every day we're hearing something new.
Right, with this, with the exploitation of Black artists, for sure. And also, speaking about visibility, I think you might have seen in the frame my assistant walking by, and I just wanted to go ahead and flash him. That's Miles Mendoza Jones right there.
All right, Miles.
You know, since we're talking about, you know, peeking behind the scenes and giving faces to labor, I think it's only right. And he tells me I don't have to shout out his whole name like that, but I do it.
Your family wants you to.
Yeah. So this is the first panel of the mural. This would have been all the way to the left side top. And what you're looking at is my dad on that side.
Okay, with the cool
hat
on.
With the hat, and his three brothers. So that's the McDonald's. That's the McDonald's boys at the top of the mural. And I call that the Ancestral Realm because they're up there. I like to think about them as kind of looking down upon the studio process in favor and blessing the space. So they've all passed away. So that's why they're up there. And here on the floor of the plant, you have the cousins at work. Let's see if I can get you close.
I mean, the rendering of every single figure is stunning.
Thank you. Shout out to cousin Anitra right there.
Wow.
And I believe I got my cousin Adrian on this call. I believe Adrian's tuned in. Shout out to Adrian. He's been amongst so many family members, just very encouraging and supportive about this whole process. I mean, as you can imagine, some of this process is daunting because it's such a large undertaking, but I think that I'm getting to be at peace accepting that my story, the way that I'm interpreting the family and the family tree, is just one interpretation. It's still subjective. This is not by any means the end of our history. Is not the book on our history, but this is just my way of getting to know my family. So this is what's happening. I should also take you to, how about some wood blocks where some of these faces came from.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Okay, so you're carving them onto a single block and then taking those and so is the large piece that we saw, are those actually collaged together, or are you positioning the print exactly where, or the block exactly where you want it to be printed and then pulling the image from there?
Right, so what I'm doing is printing on muslin cloth, and then I'm collaging the muslin cloth onto the unstretched canvas. So wow. I'll show you some examples of that. Right now, you're looking at me busy pulling out prints. So this is, let's lay these out. So this is an example of a print that hasn't found a place yet. So I'll print it on a smaller piece like this. And then just hold it up. This is an example of the chandelier. So I can print the chandelier on muslin, and then I can collage that where I need to up here.
That is incredible. Yeah, it's absolutely mind-blowing. And I've never seen an artist work in this process, and I cannot wait to see this work in person.
I have seen versions of this. I learned this process through an artist named Dennis McNett, who taught at Pratt Institute, and he invited me. I didn't even enroll in his class, but he just invited me to carve one of these big blocks, 8-foot by 4-foot blocks.
Wow. And
he would lay them out in the street and hire a man-driven steamroller to print them. Yes. Now, I was blown away by the process, but I don't have access to a man-driven steamroller. So I was like, I gotta figure this out. So I figured out how to print by hand using a wooden kitchen spoon. So what we do is we carve out the blocks, and then we ink up the block with roller and ink, and then I'm using a wooden kitchen spoon and a brayer and just printing by hand. So it is a sweaty process, but again, I mean, this is part of the work. The work is about labor, and I'm hoping that, you know, the gesture of my labor is also embedded in the work. So all of this carving, we're gonna do something slick. Can you still see me? Yeah, you can see me.
Yeah, we got you.
Yeah, so these flowers that we talked about earlier in the screen share, this is part of the a return to Earth, that, or rather the Earth's return to us, that I see going on, especially during this pandemic. We're seeing this resurgence of nature. Earth is kind of reclaiming her space. As we settle down and go inside, we're seeing ways that the Earth is repairing herself and healing, and doing it very quickly. And he's also upset because, you know, we're seeing some rage, I think, with those fires. But
Oh yeah. Especially out here in the West, the entire West, and the hurricanes.
yes, yes, and so we're seeing the earth come alive, you know, and what we'll see in the factory when I get the mural, when I get all the panels together, is we'll see the earth reclaiming the factory, because Detroit is no longer sustained simply by the auto industry there. That was the main generator for that city, and that has shifted. So some of this is about, again, the abandonment of the American dream, how Black folks have been used at the roots in order to work the machines for industry, but have not been able to reap the benefits of this American dream in the long haul. So you'll see a lot of these floral patterns and the earth kind of coming back to reclaim the industry.
You know, kind of on that note, there was a piece, and I don't know if you have it with you right now, but I do want to pull out one of the pieces that you sent me, because it almost feels like, in addition to this, the piece was it Grandma's Tree, Grandma's Engine, or Grandma's Tree that is the engine.
Oh, it's called Auntie Grandma now.
Okay.
Grandma.
And I think in a lot of ways, what you just said, this piece, that I'm assuming you are still working on this piece.
Yeah.
You know, where this engine is also a tree, which is also, you know, several other things. You know, I think it almost kind of brings those things together.
Yeah, this is an engine block. There's an engine block reference in there from the Ford motor plant from the year I was born. And it's growing into something or growing out of something. But yeah, this is like another kind of representation of the life that the auto industry had offered, that all the life that it has sustained, all of the family connections and branching out that had been at the roots of my family. So yeah, that's still in process. We still have work. It's similar to the pyrograph. Eventually it'll get stained, and I'll have a hand in carving it and maybe adding some patina to it. So it'll go through a bit of a transformation.
This thing is incredible and impressive. I mean, I think all of your pieces are incredible and impressive, and I can clearly see the links and connections between them all within your process, which is rare. I think oftentimes when an artist switches between media, sometimes you can't tell that it's the same artist. And with your work, it always, I see your hand, I see your vision, and I can look at, you know, your trajectory, and I can see the path and how you got there. So I'm really excited to see how this show comes together, because I can already see it's just gonna blow everyone's mind.
Thank you for saying that, Dimitri. I'm hard at work in here, so
clearly
I hope that shows.
Our artwork is essential work. I'm trying to see. I'm like, I don't see any questions coming from folks. Sade is putting your links in the chat. I see them also on the MOAD Facebook page as well for folks. But, you know, I just kind of want to leave folks with, besides the show and Wellin, what else do you have going on? Do you have other residencies, fairs? You know, and I know things are on hold at this point, but, you know, what else you got going on?
Yeah, so I have, I'm moving into a studio at Brick, which is downtown Brooklyn. And I'm so grateful for that space, because I'll be able to see the mural all together in that space. It's large enough. That first piece that you showed of my collage work, the Face on Mars, which was the 17 foot by 13, I installed in a group show at Brick back in I don't know, 2014, I believe. So
Everything's
2016
back
maybe.
full circle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So very grateful that Brick was open to getting me in the space to work on this piece. So that's coming up. I just did a performance last night at from the Barclays Center as part of Eric Garner Day. So Eric Garner's family and a lot of supporters were performers, activists, and artists were there in solidarity to commemorate what Eric Garner has given us. Though his life was cut short, he has in a way given us new breath. So I was there to activate a piece of mine called The Gardener, which is it's 16 protest signs that have each line of a poem by Ross Gay called A Small Needful Fact, which is a commemoration to Eric Gardner. So we had the audience activate that piece by reading each line of the poem aloud. Beautiful. It was just a gorgeous experience. And it was like, I'm so grateful to be alive at this time and to be able to contribute in some kind of way, you know, try to change the temperature in some kind of way. So I've been so busy, man. It's just so much going on right now, you know, and I'm just grateful. I'm just so happy to be able to wake up every morning and to have a gift that allows me to express things that I don't know how to express otherwise. Yeah.
Now you have me so inspired right now. So inspired. You talked about the piece for Eric Garner. Do you know if that's posted anywhere where people can view it?
Go to my Instagram, which is at Yashua Red, at YASHUARED. I've been posting videos from that all day. I've been doing a lot of work with the Wide Awakes, which is a group, collective of artists and activists and designers and all kind of change specialists and all kind of, you know, everybody, all these just inspired people who are down to put together their superpowers and try to shift the temperature, try to raise awareness and to use joy as a way to activate space and to use joy as an act of resistance. Because we know that Black joy is a thing we can never get robbed of. I mean, there's so many pressures on us to tense up and to become small. And I think that smallness is also a good survival strategy, actually. But I think being expansive and being outward is also a survival tool, because others get to see the representation and it can empower them. It can empower them to stand up. It can empower them to join and to speak out. So, you know, sometimes crying out loud is a great way to create change as well. You know, sometimes you got to kick and scream. Sometimes you got to praise or do whatever you do. But I'm finding a lot of energy and solidarity with the brave people that are in Wide Awakes. We Are the Blacksmiths. There's a few collectives that are out there doing amazing work right now, and I just stay inspired through them.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful, and that's a great place for us to end today's talk. Thank you so much, Yashua. I really appreciate you. I stay inspired by you. And again, I can't wait for this pandemic or the quarantine to be over in its correct time, and it's in a safe time, so we can all be together and gather again together. Thank you so much, and we appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dimitri, and thanks for Moad for doing this. My heart is with you all as you navigate, you know, everything that's going on there. And, you know, respect and solidarity, but we'll get through this together.
We sure will. We sure will. And I'm inspired by you. You got me on a natural high right now for the rest of my day. All right, blessings, brother.
All right, love. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Bye, everyone, and we'll see you next week. Check the MOAD website for more information on our upcoming artists. Yashua, have a wonderful day.
You too. Thanks, Dimitri.
All right.